And it's that time of year again where we're looking back at 2024 and reviewing our best and worst of the year. I think it's been a bumper year for us. Don't you guys agree?
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to give it to you straight, to tell you the truth about what we really thought about everything we read this year. I'm going to start with Tanya.
I'll start with my worst book of the year. It's The Exes by Anam Iqbal.
Can we say least favourite?
Yeah.
Instead of saying worst.
Okay, my
Favourite
least
and least
favourite.
favourite.
Yeah, to be fair, I didn't hate it. I think I fell into the TikTok hype because I kept seeing it on my For You page and I was like, I need that. And you were the same, weren't you?
And it's a cute cover.
It's a really cute cover.
She loves a cute cover.
I love a cute and to be fair, I think that's why I really wanted it. I don't know where to start. I just didn't enjoy this as much as I thought I would. And I just think it was a little bit silly, in my opinion, especially when it comes to like Muslim romance. And we've read a lot of good like Muslim romances like Uzma Jalal Uddin. But anyways, her books are like really cute, halal and stuff. And
but still romantic.
Yeah.
It's still cute. It gives you that romance factor that you want.
Yeah.
Without there being any like smut or any.
Yeah, and there wasn't any of that in here. And I know the stuff that happens in this book happens in real life, but I just found it ridiculous. Like
a bit embarrassing.
Yeah, very embarrassing. One, I didn't like the fact that she cussed out East London. I'm sorry, I'm not going to take that slander.
That is such a
Not
bad
happening.
idea.
Like, it's the way it was done, like, coming to Ilford Lane and there's roadmen. And I'm like, where? Okay.
Like, roadmen exist
Everywhere.
everywhere. And what even is a roadman? Like,
Exactly.
what do you mean?
And then it was that one scene that I told you about, like, so she...
This did crack me up.
Can we spoil it?
Yeah.
So she gets clock lips in her man and she comes home and her dad slaps her and she's all upset. And then there's this other guy who lives across the road from her, but they can see into each other's bedroom.
I can't listen to this again.
And she's all like sad and he's calling her and he's like, oh, just, it'll be fine, just change your clothes and blah, blah. And then she starts undressing in front of him. And then he was like, turn around and she was like, everyone thinks I'm a hoe anyway, so what difference does it make if you see me naked? I was like, bro, like...
That's a big jump from just lip sync.
Have
you read this?
No.
Oh, okay.
It just wasn't for me. Anyway, enough about that.
What
so
were?
my two favourite books was Abby Jimenez,
Yeah.
Just for the Summer. This is a really cute romance book. I love this. I think I gave it a 5 out of 5. It was just sweet. Like, it's just everything that you would see in like a movie. It was just really authentic. I liked like how it started off with like the Reddit post and just the way they got along really well. I didn't find the sex scene in there cringe, but I know
I did.
But you listened to it.
I was going to say, the caveat here is that I decided to listen to it as an audiobook. Actually, the reading of it was very good. Shout out to the two actors who played the like male and female main characters on the audiobook. They were great. I just think the sex scenes were very unnecessary, and I would have just loved for it to just be an easy, soft romance. For
me, I felt like it was. I want you to read it. Then
It's my next read.
And maybe you guys can.
I will. I'm on
I
board.
think Mimi would.
Give it a go. Give it a go.
Don't put me in the same camp as Linda. I'll read it and I'll enjoy it.
Linda never.
Linda's camp?
The non-romance
Yeah.
camp.
I read romance.
Nah, I don't think you really
What?
lean into it though.
And we shook on reading that
Yeah, but you
Colleen
didn't.
Hoover.
Yeah,
but that's fine.
We've
We
broken
did.
our
We
promise.
You still haven't read it?
No.
What romance have you read recently?
Or at all.
Or at all?
Isn't this book?
No.
No.
We're gonna come back
They're
to
going to
this.
put me on the spot. A new
And then-
video about Linda's romance recommendation.
And then my last one was Prunabal, This Is Fine. This is just, I love this book.
Me too.
All of them, I can't
We love
remember
you,
much of it,
Purna.
but I just remember loving it so
Yeah,
much
it's so
and
great.
crying. Yeah, she touched on all the points really, really well in this. But yeah, I think it was, when did we read this?
Early this year.
Earlier this
We
year.
launched
It came out in June.
Yeah.
So we launched it in June and we got proof probably like, I don't know, like
Before that.
Early
early
2024.
2024.
Yeah.
And I remember when we first read it, I decided right there and then that this was going to be my favourite book of the year, and I've stuck with it. I think it was really amazing. I love Purna stuff.
It's like really good South Asian representation.
Yeah.
It's authentic, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think, is her niece's name Myra?
Yeah.
Myra. Like, I felt like she was a typical teenager. They
Yeah.
don't know much about their
Yeah.
culture because it's like she wanted to learn about it. It's like the same within our families when we see, like, they don't know much about it. They don't know much about their language,
And they're
their
not.
food.
They're generally not very inquisitive
Yeah,
teenagers.
she wasn't annoying.
Yeah.
Like, she was annoying, but like that's how teenagers are. But
Yeah.
she was an annoying character.
Yeah.
And then even the romance in there, I like that it wasn't.
Forced.
Yeah.
And very subtle.
Yeah, very subtle.
He sounded amazing.
He was
though.
so cute.
What's his name?
Green flag.
Hugo.
Hugo.
He didn't sound cute enough for me, not my cup of tea, but he sounded cute as a
That
character.
feels suddenly really personal.
I don't remember the looks. I just remember like the character.
The character
was a green flag.
He was
sometimes,
brilliant.
like
He was a green flag.
in a romance, a lot of times you want to fancy the main character because that
Sure.
helps gives you the feels of it. Because you're like, oh my god, he sounds so hot.
I will say I definitely fancied the main character in the Abby Jimenez book.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I'm
need
looking
to.
forward to
No, I don't know.
Big
You're-
fan.
Oh, I'm a
Linda's
hater.
a waste.
I'm a waste man. Right.
Anyways, that's my least and favourite.
Thank
of
you,
the year.
Tan. That was fantastic. Let's go to the other end of the table and go sister for sister with Hannah.
Yeah, so if you didn't know, me and Tanya are sisters. But okay, so I will switch it up and go for my favourite of the year. Okay, so A Woman Is No Man, it's written by Itaf, and it's about a Palestinian woman who gets married and comes to America, and the relationship she has, and also just like the struggles of like not coming from like a very loving family in terms of a relationship with her mum, how that ends up affecting her relationship with her children, but also in her marriage and with her, she had a very overbearing mother-in-law. Her husband, he was again quite a bit older than her as well, and yeah, there were so many different dynamics going on, and it was devastating to read, but so well done. It was so impactful. It was really, really good. I really enjoyed it. And then there was Susan Abelhauer's book, and I finally got around to reading Linda's favourite book ever, because she's been recommending this to us for years and years and years. And I read it at the start of the year, and I cried deeply. And again, it's another Palestinian author writing about a Palestinian story. And I can't even tell you what goes on in that book because it crosses different generations. It starts with like the grandparent story, and then it goes to the parent story, and then the granddaughter, and then even her daughter. So it's across 4 different generations, and you know, just the trauma that they go through. It's just devastating, that book. Like, I can't recommend it enough. And then my least favourite.
Wait. Before we get into that,
Yeah.
and we had Itaf Ram come all the way from North Carolina
Yeah.
to join us for our first ever festival this year, which was incredible. She released Evil Eye last year. It's out in paperback this year, and it was just such an honour to have her
Yeah.
come all the way for us
Yeah.
to come and speak to us about
Yeah.
just the themes in A Woman Is No Man and her second novel, Evil Eye, and she's so lovely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
She's
she's
so
amazing.
lovely. So we're so lucky that.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to your least favourite.
And my least favourite of the year was A Song of Me and You by Mike Gell. The reason I say least is because I feel like I just read a lot of really, really good, impactful, deep books this year. And with this, it was a romance, but because it was aimed more at like that slightly middle-aged era, it didn't quite feel relatable for me. And for me, I'm like, I like YA type romances, or just something really obvious and cute, and this was a bit more like trying to find himself. There's other deep themes in the book and stuff like that. So for me, it didn't quite hit the romance mark for me.
It's quite grown up.
Yeah, it was quite grown up, and I still feel like a child half the time. So I think that was the only reason why I didn't enjoy it as much. Oh, sorry, Mike.
We love
You
you.
came in last.
Yeah, we had him for book club though.
Yeah.
The discussion was a lot of fun.
It was fun.
He's a great guy.
Yeah.
And he's got an extensive backlist. My favourite one of his is All the Lonely People.
I
which
really
I really
massive-
want to read that.
massively maintain that I think that's one of Mike's best books.
Is that your latest romance read then? Is that the most
Well, I
recent
think
romance
no,
you've read?
it's- I mean,
or this one?
No, All the Lonely People isn't a romance.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay,
a romance.
But honestly,
It
just,
sounds really
it's
cute because
so
I love old
good.
people stories. Like
So you like really
You
old
like
people?
really old people.
Yeah,
and
really
just something
young
like middle-aged
Yeah.
people.
You're kind of approaching middle age, almost.
That's fine. I'm happy
Oh.
to approach it. Doesn't mean I have to read about it.
Fair enough.
It's too confronting to read.
She's
Yeah, fair,
experiencing
fair.
it. So let's go to Linda.
Right, okay. I found it really difficult to pick a least favourite book of the year because we've read really, really good stuff, and a lot of the stuff that we read this year was in preparation for our festival, which was incredible. So a lot of work was being done behind the scenes. However, I can't even remember when I read this book. Anyway, so this is Night Bloom by Peace Adzonidi, and the first book was His Only Wife, which I really enjoyed, and I read that like during lockdown, so I was really looking forward to this. And also, it was long listed on the Women's Prize last year or this year, I can't remember, but I definitely read it this year. So this is a story of cousins who go completely different ways. One is like from a well-off background, the other one isn't so much, and one gets sort of dragged into all sorts of things while the other one's thriving. And I just didn't buy the story, to be honest with you, and I found it so predictable. And I was just like, yeah, what? Yeah, sorry.
What
I
have
just
I
think,
gained?
what have I gained? I haven't connected with it. So please read my full, coherent review on Insta, because I just can't remember. But yeah, so that was my least favourite, sorry. Best, okay, oh my gosh. So many, like, loved This Is Fine by Poor Annabelle.
Yeah.
But one of the standout books for me this year, fiction, was Jaded by Ella Lee. I think we all unanimously gave this either a 4 or 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Floored by this book.
Amazing. I remember reading the proof for this, I think in January, or maybe late last year.
Yeah.
And as soon as I turned the first page, I knew that I wasn't going to put it down until I was done.
Yeah.
And that's exactly a similar experience that we all had.
Yeah.
And she's an incredible author. The book is about a half Korean, half Turkish lawyer, born and raised in London, and basically just tries to find out who her identity is, but amidst a really, really traumatic series of events that happened to her. And it was just written so well that made us all think. And
like it lingers with you, like it stays for days.
I think the power of these books is sometimes in the way that they feel like they could be someone you know.
Exactly.
And that's why I think the character was someone that we all were just like, I know who this person is, like working in your like late 20s, early 30s,
Exactly.
in around London. I know who this person is and what they're going through.
And when you meet the author as well, and again, we were privileged to have Ella Lee come to book club with us, which is probably one of the best book clubs we've had.
Yeah.
And then also we brought her again to our festival. She's so incredibly talented, so like well considered in what she's saying, charismatic, and you can see that in her work.
Yeah.
So cannot wait to see what's next from her.
No
Big pressure. Loads of pressure. Loads of pressure.
Yeah, but like really loved it, even though it was super heavy. So that's Jaded. So Jess, because we share a lot of our favourites this year, hopefully you can help me describe why The Chain was so amazing. So this is by Chemaine Suleiman. Real life story of, well,
how her
go on.
she was in a relationship with a man who turned out to be a narcissistic, controlling, emotionally abusive person. And not only was he doing this to her, but to multiple women across America, across Europe. He crossed borders to be a narcissist. And this story is just, with each chapter, it keeps like opening and unfolding and getting worse and worse.
Another
and
link
worse.
in the chain of women.
Yeah. The chain is actually all the women who are connected by this man's behaviour. And ultimately it is the story of these women feeling empowered to take it on and, you know, own it as something that happened to them, not as victims, but as being able to sort of take this and move forward and move on from him and also eviscerate him publicly.
I've read it as well, and I just found it really brave because she's put herself out there.
Yeah.
She's kind of put herself out there with her name, told everyone what's going on. I think she's done a really good job of painting a picture of what was a very real relationship for her, and the just unravelling. Like, you could totally understand this happens to so many people who would never talk about it, but the way she's put it together in this book, I just thought was really brave.
Yeah.
So has she written it as non-fiction?
It's literally like a memoir style.
Memoir.
Yeah. But again, it was also like the way that she wrote this book, I just thought, I was mesmerised by it. It wasn't like, okay, and then this is what happened next kind of thing.
Yeah.
It was way more dynamic than that. Again, really, I mean, it's her experience, but so carefully considered. It's difficult to put into words eloquently how this made me feel. Because it's her lived experience, and the best words are the ones in here. So I would encourage everyone to read it, but wow.
It's like equal parts rage, equal parts
Despair?
no.
Yeah, it's devastating.
Yeah.
I don't know, it really hurt me, like, to read this, like, because, spoiler, one of the common things that the guy did is that he, you know, would sort of get his victims pregnant and then abandon them at their most vulnerable and
point.
lowest, and that's how this book opens. Just terrible. But again, a really searing read, and it's etched into my brain.
Yeah.
So that's why it's one of my best reads of the year.
Yeah.
So I think that's that.
Yeah. We'll start with In My Mother's Footsteps by Mona Hajar Halaby. Yes. This is another one of Linda telling everyone, please read this, please read this, please read this. And I finally did this year, and it sits with me in my heart because it's just very emotionally beautiful. I absolutely love this book. It's the story of Mona. I forgot that it was like non-fiction technically. Essentially like going through her family, her mom's memories of Palestine, how they lived, and taking her home to see her homeland. Like the aim is to go home. It just
after how many years? Like 60 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 50, 60 years.
Because her mum had dementia by that point, right? Yeah.
Just like the personal level of understanding what they went through when they were forced to go, and the like yearning, and what happens when they get there. Like it's so changed, and it's so upsetting. But it's also incredible that she was able to do this with her mum. Like, the whole story is just beautiful from start to finish, and
everyone has to read it.
It's a real story of love, and it's incredible. Again, another great example of Palestinian literature, so please support.
Can I add to that?
Yeah.
So that was one of my favourites last year, and I think Mimi, you read it as well.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Yeah, for me it was more like obviously the story of the family, but also getting to know Palestine pre-Nakba.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
where
that's what I mean.
We read a lot like the diaspora literature, which is great. Like we mentioned, A Woman Is No Man, so she's like first generation immigrant, but like we don't really know about what's happened in the past. We know about the trauma of it. Whereas with this, it's more a lot of memories of the good days, which is nice to read about. It's nice to know about the culture and the history before. And so one that I read similar to this one was another Palestinian memoir by Ghada Karmi called In Search of Fatima, and again brilliant. She remembers her upbringing in Palestine, and her dad lived to 103.
Wow!
So she had the gift of having his memory, his emotions and everything captured over years of basically being with her dad, and that's captured in that memoir. So I really, really recommend it. You've heard me say it now, so there you go. Anyway, back to you.
My second book that I've chosen is also another one from our fantastic festival this year. So this was part of our festival reading. We had a panel on masculinity in literature, and one of the authors is a debut, Ian Russell Shea, and this book is called I'm New Here. And I chose this just because it's so different to everything else I've read this year. It's just so left field, but also so entertaining. I thought the pacing of this book was just incredible, and I kept wanting to see what happened to Sean every time I turned the page. I just didn't want to put it down. Some of the language was quite challenging, I would say, in it. I feel like you guys will, it's the way he talked was really insular. He was very, only thinking about himself. He's quite selfish, and it's the phrasing, for true, for serious, at least that's the voice I kept doing.
Yeah, but he lived in Bethnal Green.
Yeah.
So I didn't expect. Sorry for the East London slander.
But the story. No, I've not
East
read.
London's getting too much hate today.
I've not read anything from a British Taiwanese perspective before.
No.
I don't know about you guys.
No.
I just thought the angle was really unique. The way the story is told is really unique, and it's essentially about Sean trying to find himself out from a really bad situation that he's been in. And I absolutely love this book. So this is also up there with me, alongside The Chain, alongside Jaded. And so then I guess my least favourite read of the year was actually an audiobook. This was the year that I discovered audiobooks. And so I listened to Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld, which I've seen a lot of people read and love. And I feel like the paperback is always out in bookshops, and everyone seems to be buying it or loving it. And I absolutely was not interested. The first third of the book is really fun. It's about a woman who's she's a staff writer at essentially SNL, and they have a celebrity on, a singer, and she's quite a messy heroine type person, oh yeah, I'm really scatty, and I'm really funny, and I'm the funny one, and I'm not the pretty one kind of person. But the starting bit is really good. They meet on this show when she's the writer, they bond over writing jokes and stuff, and it's a really subtle, slow flirtation, which I really liked. And I was oh, this is great, I can't wait to see where this goes. And then she starts writing about COVID, and they're communicating via email. The emails are really long and boring, and they misunderstand each other, and the rest of the book just becomes really slow and tedious. and I just wasn't enjoying it at all. I powered through so that I could give it a full review, but I don't.
A lot of people have sort of mentioned that they don't want to read about COVID.
Yeah, it's too soon.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that.
We had to live through it, and it wasn't that long ago, and you don't want to have to read it in literature as well. You want to try and escape it.
It's like in TV shows now, when there's a COVID series, I skip it.
Yeah.
That's true.
But Shani's book, hers was good, even though hers was based around.
But COVID was like a backdrop to it.
Yeah.
COVID wasn't like, it was like the time, because she wanted to set it in like 2020, 2021.
Yeah.
The stories had that as a context. It wasn't like the driver of the story, like it sounds like this one. But you're right, Shani's book was really good.
Yeah.
So for context, that's Shani Akila, For Such a Time as This, which is a short story collection, debut novelist. Really, really good actually.
Yeah.
But
a really good debut.
I loved all of the
stories.
Yeah.
So Mimi, last but not least.
But I will finish up. And I will start with my least favourite so we can finish on a positive note.
Yeah.
So I've had this since the start of the year, waiting for this video, and I'm now going to get rid of it. Come and Get It by Kylie Reid. So I'm really annoyed because I loved Such a Fun Age. Linda, I know you liked it as well.
Yeah,
and I thought it was good.
I enjoyed it.
You know, generally speaking, everyone seemed to
liked it, Jess.
You liked it as well. Like, I thought Such a Fun Age was good. It's had mixed kind of reviews from kind of, you know, people that we chat to about books, etc. But I thought it was a really good book. So I was really excited when this one came into my hands. And I started reading it, and I got 100 pages in, and I couldn't tell you which character was who. I couldn't tell you what their names were. I couldn't tell you what their stories were. I was so confused. And then she went on the radio and did an interview with Woman's Hour, which I love. And I was listening to this interview.
The author?
Yeah,
Kylie
Reid. And she went and she was talking about the book, and she was discussing all these themes. And I was like, right, concentrate. I'm sorry to come across really savage, but I could not connect them to. I thought she was talking about something completely different. I was like, am I sure I've got the right book?
Have you read the same
Have they
book?
printed something else in it?
Oh my gosh.
It was, there's too many characters, it's too messy. The idea around essentially there's just a group of friends that are meeting, and there's a couple where one's person slightly older than the other, than the student, and there's a lot of disagreement about money in the context of female friendship, but it's messy, there's too many people. I think she's fallen slight victim to having a really, really good book in Such a Fun Age, in what I think is a really good book, and then not having the same maybe care and attention put into this from an editorial perspective.
Came out Such a Fun Age came out like 4 or 5 years
Yeah.
ago.
I read it in COVID.
Yeah. Also, just for context, guys, like Mimi's one of the smartest people we know. So if Mimi's reading the book and 2 and 2 are not making 4, then there's
not
an
her.
issue.
We're missing something.
It's not Mimi, all right?
Do you know what? If you disagree with me, put it in the comments, please, and explain it to me if you could, because I'm really happy to be proven wrong on this.
No, life's too short for that. Life's too short. Right.
But yeah, so that one, not a great one. Now getting rid of, great. So I really struggled to choose between my favourites. A Woman Is No Man was definitely up there for me. Etaf's books this year were incredible. And I just finished recently Pachinko by Min Lin Yi, and I wanted to mention it because it absolutely blew my mind, but I didn't want to be accused of recency bias for just finishing it, so I thought I'd add Stillborn too, just so everyone can remember. Essentially, it kind of covers a period of history where the Japanese are essentially trying to wipe out the nation of Korea, culturally, religiously, sort of in terms of race. It is there's a Korean community that have kind of escaped to Japan and are living second-class citizen life, as happened in the time in the early 1900s. So the story starts there, follows about, nearly 100 years. It's kind of a whole generation story, starting with Sunja, who falls pregnant after having an affair with an older man who she didn't realise at the time was married and had his wife and children. She then gets married to a pastor from the local community, moves to be with him and his brother and his sister-in-law, has a second child, and everything just kind of follows from there with the backdrop of the civil war the war between Japan and Korea, then going into the Second World War and the Japanese involvement in the Second World War, then the division of Korea. Wow. An area of history that I had very little knowledge of. I did lots of Googling, and as I was reading, and I was trying to teach myself what on earth was going on. It is beautiful. Right. It took me about 70 pages, I would say, to get in, but it's 550, so that's nothing. It's long, but it is beautiful. The story is excellently written, the characters are engaging, and what I particularly loved about it, which I thought was really powerful, was that Sun just starts us off, but then we follow her children, and then her you know, one son and then another son, and then we follow kind of their children, and it kind of follows so sequentially that Sunja's still present at the end. Hopefully that's not too much of a spoiler, but she's not kind of the key driver of the story anymore. It's like it's passed hands, it's like it's been passed on. So it was, you know, up there with like Mountain Sing and Kwei Mai's books about Vietnam, and sort of the way that this paints a picture of career in Japan is just brilliant. Absolutely recommend this. Everyone get it on your shelves. It's worth the 550 pages. And then the other one that I really enjoyed this year is Stillborn, which was translated. It's written by Guadalupe Nettel, I believe in Spanish originally, and this is a translated version. This was put in our hands by Homa Qureshi. Thank you, Homa. I loved this book. So this is the story of two women in their 30s who are really good friends. Neither of them think they want children, and then one gets married and decides she wants a child. Really, really struggles to have that child, and her best friend still maintains that she doesn't want children, but forms this beautiful relationship with a neighbour's child. So she's got a next door neighbour, has a kid. This kid is really struggling, and she forms this gorgeous relationship with the kid, even though it doesn't change her mind on wanting to have her own children. Meanwhile, she's kind of supporting her friend through her journey to have a family and what that looks like, and she goes through, I don't want to ruin it too much, but it's really tumultuous. It's not easy at all. There's so many complexities to it. And I just really loved it because it was like it felt very pertinent to me, with lots of my friends having kids, me being unsure about whether or not I want children, and that conversation about what does that look like. And it was just, what I really loved and what I found really powerful about it was that, you know, our main character had a fantastic, almost maternal relationship without it being like, oh my God, suddenly that's fixed me and I want children.
Yeah.
I just love the authenticity of, you can be a really good aunt, you can be a really good friend, and it's kind of stuff that Porna writes about a lot as well in her books. But it's really powerful to read about women in their 30s who are content without having children, but can still be absolute powerhouse presence in other children's lives. And it's brilliant. It's just fantastic. It's really well translated. I didn't feel like it was bitty like some translated books can be. So thank you, Homa, for putting this in my hand. And yeah, absolute highlight of this year as well.
Oh, we've been through some topics this year, guys. We're really happy to hear from you guys on what your favourites and least favourites are. So please use the comment box below. Let us know what you loved and what you would recommend to us from this year, from your reading piles. Thank you all so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos from your fave girls at the Candid Book Club. See you next time.
Bye.